And good morning, Utsoda, and namaste, Maya. How are you? And welcome, everyone. Welcome to Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by HinduPact, the policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America. Hindu Lounge Hindu Lounge is a show about contemporary American Hindu issues, and Hindu Lounge comes live every week on Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern. We are initiative of World Hindu Council of America, and World Hindu Council of America, or VHPA, is one of the largest Hindu organizations and one of the oldest American Hindu organizations, over 50 years old now. With me, as always, is Utsada, who is Utsav Chakrabarti. Utsada is Executive Director of Hindu Pact. And with Utsada is, as always, Maya Durga. And she is our co-host since she was since she was like 3 months old or 4 months old. And I am Ajay Shah, and I am the president of World Hindu Council of America, or VHPA. And again, Utsada, our episode, last week we celebrated 75th episode, and today we are on our 76th episode, and we'll talk about it. But first, on to you to welcome our viewers. Utsada,
Namaste, Bhai. Good morning. Namaste and good morning, everybody. And Maya Durga Chakravarti, our Director of Youth Affairs, just went away.
you mean our infant or toddler affairs?
Director of Toddler Affairs.
That's right.
So she just walked away here. But yes, we had a wonderful 75th episode. We hope everybody watched it. We kind of did a deep dive into our community, our issues, our Hindu Pact agendas, and so today we have more of a somber issue to talk about. But it is nevertheless even more important to discuss this, because this involves people's lives, this involves people's history, their livelihood, and their future. So, Ajay bhai, let's dive into it.
Let's dive into it. This is a kind of interesting week. This is week number 3 of Hindu Heritage Month, and this is also a week where it's in the middle of a lot of Hindu festival seasons. You can think of our festival seasons that actually start from Janmashtami and Raksha Bandhan, Janmashtami, followed by Ganeshotsav, which lasts 10 days in most part of India, followed by Navratri and Dashera, and then ending at Diwali, and for many people, the New Year, the day after Diwali. So this is really a festive season. This is really a season where everyone, kind of friends and families and everyone, to come together. There's a religious significance, and we can talk about religious significance at some point. And there is also a cultural significance, and they kind of blend together in Hindu Dharma. And in that time of where Hindus come together, celebrate, especially, we're going to talk about Navratri, which just got over a few days ago, last week actually, ending at this during Dasera. This is the time where it's celebrated in a large way in Gujarat, in Bengal, in other parts of India, with ending at the Dashera celebration, right? And in that celebration, some events that took place in former East Bengal, which is now Bangladesh, which reminded people of something that happened over 50 years ago. So, Utsada, you are a Bengali speaking person. You have a family there, you have close ties there, and you are very intimately familiar with the history over there. So walk us through what happened over last 2 weeks, and once you lay out the ground of what happened in last 2 weeks, then we will talk about a little bit about the history of what happened 50 years ago, followed by some of the things that American Hindus have been doing. Okay, so over to you, Utsada. And I must say that I want to thank people who have joined us today. I know that Hindu Pact and AHAD, which is American Hindus Against Defamation, also has a program simultaneously running with this program, and it's a partnership between us and Dharma Civilization Foundation. That program is Hindu Dharma, Hindutva, and Hindu Dvesha. It is a webinar series with 20 well-known speakers lasting 4 weekends 8 total days of 2 hours each. And so we know that in some ways, Utsada, we are competing with us for the audience. But, everything is recorded. You can watch this recording and that one live or vice versa. We welcome anyone who wants to join here, have conversation. But over to you, Utsada. Please talk to us about what happened in last 2 weeks. And if you want to share, please go ahead and share. I know you have some pictures that you wanted to share as well. So please go ahead and let's get started. And Sada, you're on
Actually,
mute.
Ajay bhai, I was going to first just talk about this and then
Sure.
share a few things.
Yeah,
I, I began to feel
that's fine.
like the more we share on these kinds of presentations, the more people don't listen to us. So, my the first thing that I think I wanted to talk about was that just as Durga Puja was being celebrated across the world, including in America, India, what is present day Bangladesh today, and many other parts of the world where Hindus are, and some places they call it Navaratri, some places Durga Puja. It's it's the same celebration, same practices, same deities. What happened was very interestingly. Every year during Durga Puja, there is violence targeted at Hindus in Bangladesh. Let me say that clearly because it is the nature of the population that, if you have 70%, 80%, 85% Muslim population in a country, which is still practicing and still practicing some of its pre-Islamic cultures, especially its Hindu tradition of Durga Puja, which is still not to the point of hated to the point where it's hated in what is present day Pakistan. But in Bangladesh, it still survives as a practice, especially amongst the Hindus. But even some Muslims also are quite open to it because it's their own heritage. Most Bengalis Muslims in Bangladesh, Bengali speaking Muslims, are not that old in terms of when they were last converted. So Durga Puja is a very well known festival in Bangladesh, and it has been used as an excuse to target Hindus, especially by Islamists. And as we all know, in today's world, you look for one and you find 20 of them. So that's been the trend in Bangladesh. There has been targeted violence against Hindus, individuals, and temples over the past many decades, going back many decades during Durga Puja. But what was very odd and interesting, and I use the word interesting not frivolously. We are, as it's as sad as it is, we have to analyze it non-emotionally. uh, it was this time it was much more violent, and this time it was uh, way more organized. And what happened was that the Durga Puja started. Later on, it was found out a person named Iqbal, but at that point of time, it was circulated in social media all around Bangladesh and around the world that somebody had kept the Holy Quran, and I'm using the words in quotes here, uh, at the feet of at the feet of Lord Hanuman in one of the temples. And that Quran, and obviously, as you know, most Muslims, say they don't worship, physical objects, but in real terms they do. And this is one of the cases where this is considered blasphemy. So they use that as an excuse to target Hindu temples and Hindus in general, murderously. And so the rumor was first prepared. So the whole thing was set up. Somebody placed a Quran at the feet of Lord Hanuman in some temple in Bangladesh. And then the rumor was quickly circulated with photographs on social media that the whole Quran has been desecrated. And that riles up Muslims like anything else anywhere in the world. And they went on a bloody rampage, started killing Hindus and destroying temples. And in the first 3 days, 4 days, they were brutal, and they went after every Hindu temple, every Hindu individual that they could lay their hands on. So much so that they didn't even spare 10-year-old little girls. We will show the presentation. We will show some photographs as I finish this monologue, because it's important for us to see what is happening. And so they went on doing this, and they not only targeted Durga Pujas, which is very prevalent at this time. There are temporary pandals, temporary coverings under which Devi Durga is worshipped by Hindus. They destroyed all of that all across Bangladesh. But they even started targeting the ISKCON temple. So ISKCON, as you all know, is a sampradaya of Hindus. A lot of people from non-Indian heritage, non-ethnic Indian subcontinent heritage, who are Hindus, practice and follow ISKCON. It's International Society of Krishna Consciousness. They are very, very, very outgoing. They have a good outreach. They feed millions of people around the world. Very sattvic practices, and they had some temples in Bangladesh, including at a place called, including in places which are not very well known and well populated by Hindus. And one of those places is Noakhali. So what happened is that they targeted ISKCON temple as well in Noakhali, and they killed many devotees there, to the point where, like, people anywhere who were seen anywhere near the temple, the Hindus who were seen anywhere near the temples, were also murdered immediately. So that created additional outrage, because previously targeting Bengali speaking Hindus, who are indigenous people, who've been living on that land for thousands of years, have been oppressed by Islamists for hundreds of years, including in the last 50 years. That doesn't make news in the world. But when you target ISKCON, which is an internationally recognized global Hindu organization with global presence, with followers from every ethnicity around the world, with temples all around the world, that became even bigger news. But I'm saying all of these things to narrate what happened in as much of a short time as I can. Then we are going to look at the pictures of how it unfolded and what actually was done. And then we are going to analyze why it was done as I see it, because I do have an understanding that this was done premeditated, well organized, to send larger local as well as global messaging, and it was very well thought out. Not an emotional incident at all.
So
So
it has to be right, so that because the person who was actually who planted the initial Quran in the mandir and all that, that person was mentally challenged, and somebody instigated him to
no,
go
no, no.
and
So,
plant this.
so
And
two
that's
things
also
about
the
that
news
person.
item that I came across, that this person was instigated in a well-planned conspiracy. So there was a conspiracy. It was a well-planned conspiracy to find a mentally, challenged person to go and plant this particular, Quran in the temple, which then led
Well,
to the
there is there
violence.
is there is still no confirmation about the veracity or the truthfulness of the quote unquote mentally challenged part. It is like the mentally unstable murder defense in America, that often happens after the fact when murder has been committed. But the two things that are confirmed about that person, his name is Iqbal. He is a known drug addict. So that could be one of the reasons why the person, probably they offered him some enticement of drugs to do this act. And number two, he's a Shia. So that angle is not well understood, not well recorded or reported. So the fact that a person is Shia, which is Muslim community sect that has very few in numbers in Bangladesh, and that also is a target of Sunni radicalism. So to use a person who themselves are a target of Sunni Muslim jihadists as a prop to target Hindus, and later on, use that as an excuse, saying, "Hey, he was a Shia who was doing it as a." Bottom line is that they planned this, organized this, and then use that excuse to target Hindus. And not just that. I mean, I'm going to show you some of the photographs now, Ajay bhai. If I can, let me
Sure.
see here.
Please go ahead and share your video.
Yeah. Uh, it you have to accept it. I just shared something. You have to accept
Yes,
it.
absolutely. Uh,
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm gonna. Do you see me moving this, changing to the next slide?
Yep. You want to
So
reduce the sidebar size so that this comes, the picture is a little bigger, but otherwise it's all good.
yeah, I think I'll just go this
Okay,
way.
yeah, just go with this. This
Yeah.
is fine. So,
So
what are we looking at? What picture is this,
So
Utsav?
this is the picture of a small girl who was 10-year-old girl who was targeted in the first few days, in the first 2 days. A village girl, just her only fault was she's a Hindu. A mob targeted her, raped her, and she died up because of that rape, because of the violent nature of the rape. After her death, they did not spare her mother. They went after her mother and raped her as well. So this is, and I was going to show her face, but Ajay insisted that I don't. So we covered the face, but this is something that Hindus around the world need to see, because this is the outcome of the targeted killing of Hindus in any country, whether it is this time this is in Bangladesh, but this happens everywhere in the world wherever Hindus are in minority and are targeted. And the sad part is that the only people who are willing to speak about this, or who are willing to take up the voice of these victims, are people like us, Hindus like us. There is nobody else in the world who cares. Ajay bhai, your sound is gone, so please unmute yourself. You're trying to say something? You may want to unmute yourself, Ajay bhai. Hello. I can't hear you, Ajay bhai, so you have to unmute yourself. So anyway, I think Ajay bhai is having some trouble with her sound, with his sound. So I'm going to go to the next slide and keep showing. So as you can see, this was within the first 48 hours, and they destroyed hundreds and hundreds of temples within Bangladesh, and as you can see here. This is a list. This is in Bengali, but it kind of tabulates each region of Bangladesh where this targeting happened, and it was in the dozens. It was in the dozens, and more than 100 temples have been destroyed, and nearly 100 people have been either killed or injured in such a manner that it's going to affect their life forever.
Utsada, what I was going to ask you was that this happened just a couple of months ago in West Bengal, right?
Yeah. This is
Very
actually
similar incidents happened in West Bengal.
these incidents happening in West Bengal.
So,
Yes.
what is it about Bengal, and why are these incidents happening increasingly in both? I mean, they've always happened for decades. It has happened, but
So
why
the
is it
map that
so
I'm showing
visibly
you,
happening now in both East Bengal as well as West Bengal? Now, I know the history. I know that the similar incidents have happened post independence, during the independence, and during the partition as well, both in West Bengal and East Bengal.
but
But
the
why
map
do
I'm
we see
showing you,
this in
Ajay bhai,
last
is
couple of
not West
months?
Bengal. The map is from Bangladesh. This map is from Bangladesh.
No, what I'm saying, not about this map. I'm saying, why is it that both East Bengal and West Bengal are now seeing increasing number of these incidents, at least more than they were, say, 15 years ago? Both East and West Bengal have these incidents. They seem to be increasing. There seem to be political patronage. All of that, both in West Bengal and some parts of East in Bangladesh, right? Why is that happening?
So there is a very fundamental reason for that, and then there are layers of other reasons for that. The
Okay.
fundamental reason is that Bangladesh and West Bengal both have an increasing Muslim population, and because of that, when you have a larger segment of the population that is Islamic or practicing Muslim, within that segment, there is a larger section that is radicalized. And that radicalization happens faster as the population becomes Muslim majority more and more. Because the less there is diversity within any society, the faster is the Islamization and the radicalization of the Muslim community in that society. As you can see, it has happened in Afghanistan, it has happened in Pakistan, it has happened in Iran, it has happened in a few other places around the world as well. So it's a well recorded, well known trend. We all understand it. Something needs to be done about it. So both West Bengal and what is present day Bangladesh has an increasing Muslim demography, causing to a even faster increase in radicalization. Number two, in Bangladesh, the ruling government is attempting to be quote unquote more inclusive within the within the circumstances and within the limitations of what it has to deal with in terms of its demographic weaknesses. In West Bengal, it's the other way. Because of a growing Muslim population, the Hindu leadership within West Bengal, across the political spectrum, but especially amongst the non-BJP parties, is extremely pro-Islamist because it wants to get their vote as a vote bank. So previously, the Marxists made tremendous compromises, including allowing illegal emigration into India from Bangladesh so as to increase their vote bank. Now it is been compounded further because now the current state government in West Bengal willingly allows this to further happen so that they can continue to get the votes from the Muslim population. And tied with that, because they are allowing this massive influx of Muslims from Bangladesh to happen to Bengal, tied with that is the problem of crime, because it's a cross-border issue. Smuggling, human trafficking, and gun running, which is basically weapons being transferred from one place to another. All of this is now happening simultaneously along with this moving Muslim population, which includes global Islamist networks and global terror networks taking advantage of this situation. Now, at the ground level, it reflects in the form of dominance of crimes and criminal activities, which in turn, during these festivals, leads to attacks on Hindus. So both in West Bengal and in Bangladesh, there is a growing radical Islamist population, which expresses itself because of a lack of Hindu response or Hindu unity in the form of targeting of Hindus, because that's the natural outcome of any radicalized society, which is Islamist. Now, yeah.
So yeah, go ahead. I do have a question for you, but I'll wait for a second.
The additional point I wanted to make here is that in Bangladesh, the government pretends to make an effort to contain Islamists, but is hamstrung by the fact that it is 80% Muslim country. In West Bengal, the state government, even though it is still Hindu majority, a state is still Hindu majority, doesn't even pretend to contain these Islamists who are actually lesser in number, much lesser in number now compared to Bangladesh. So on one side, which is the Muslim majority area of Bengali speaking population, the government wants to control it, but they cannot because they don't have the ability to, because it's an Islamist country now. On the Indian side, which is still Hindu majority, the state government doesn't want to contain Islamists because it sees it as a vote bank. And because there is a lack of unity amongst the Hindus who are willing to unite against these Islamists. So you have from both sides different reasons for not being able to contain Islamists, but it is still a growing Islamist population with a growing antipathy towards Hindus in general, and India especially on the western side.
So let me take a step back, right? So as I said in the beginning, this is not something new for Bengal. Noakhali, where this ISKCON Mandir was attacked, where a lot of destruction of mandir and lives and all of that took place, has seen a similar violence earlier. So this is not new for Noakhali either. Tell us what happened in Noakhali 50 years ago. Because that is one of the saddest parts of Hindu history, right? And people, even though it is not that old, people don't relate to it. People 75 years ago, rather, right? 75 years ago that happened, and people still don't have memories of it.
Correct. So I'll tell you what happened in Noakhali, and then you can, our audience, and you can see and actually see a connection between what happened in Noakhali and what is happening today, 75 years later. And there's a clear line of the path of connection between these two events, and it portends really bad for what will happen 70 years from now. So I'll tell you what happened in Noakhali in 1946. In August 1946, later Prime Minister of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, at that time the leader of the Muslim League in India, called for something called the Direct Action Day, which was basically a call to the Muslims of the Indian subcontinent to start attacking and killing Hindus so as to agree, so that they agree to the demand, and they convince the British to the demand that a separate country called Pakistan needs to be created just for the Muslims of the Indian subcontinent. Based on the fact that Muslims are meant to rule and cannot coexist in a society where they are living in a rule or a democracy where somebody else is a majority. The non-Muslim is in the majority. So that was a very simple demand. It's a very honest Islamic approach. Many of times Indians don't say, oh, we don't know why Pakistan was created. Well, the reasons, they had a simple reason. Muslims want to rule. And in a democracy, they are not sure that they can rule. Therefore, they want a separate Muslim country. So it was based on that demand. And based on that demand, they launched something called the Direct Action Day in August 1946, literally saying we are going to directly act to kill Hindus and show you why we want a separate country. And it was planned in Kolkata, which was at that time the biggest city in India, for which before that for a long time was the capital of the British Indian Empire, Dominion, whatever you want to call it. It was called the London of the East, very prosperous, very big city, metropolis. When they started in Kolkata, the Muslim League expected to be able to create a massacre of Hindus to the point where the rest of the nation's Hindus would just bend down on their knees and beg for mercy and give the state of Pakistan away. That didn't happen. The Hindus of Kolkata, which was, by the way, a Hindu majority city at that time, fought back and almost ended up in a situation where, even though the Direct Action Day was called by the Muslim League, it ended up causing them more damage. And they, in many estimates, it came out that they actually took more casualties. They took more casualties because Hindus decided to fight back. We can have an entire show on what happened during the Direct Action Day, in that week of Direct Action Day, and how Hindus fought back. It actually is a very good example of how Hindus from different linguistic groups, different regions of the country came together. It was the Bengali Hindu across all social segment. It was the Sikh. It was the Marathi Hindu, and somebody from the southernmost part of India. They all came together during Direct Action Day in Kolkata to give a response to the Muslims under Muslim League that made the Muslim League feel like it was defeated in Kolkata. So what did Muslim League do? They went back to their drawing board and decided that they'll pick a part of the Indian subcontinent which is very, very less populated by Hindus, which has a Muslim majority, and which is isolated from the mainland India, so that British government forces, because that was still under the British rule, British are not able to send military or police help in a short period of time. So they picked up a place called Noakhali, which is in the easternmost part of the Indian subcontinent, at that point a united India, very close to the Myanmar border, in the hilly regions close to what is present-day Tripura. Isolated area, a very well-established but very small Hindu community. And it had something that the Muslim League really believed it would help them, which is water. It was surrounded by waterways, hard to cross, easy to picket and kind of barricade out. And in addition to that, it had a couple of former British Army Muslim officers who had left the British Army after World War II and had went back and started living in those areas, were highly trained in military tactics and were highly motivated, in most cases Islamists are, to kill Hindus and destroy Hindus. So they made this plan. So from August 1946 to October 1946, they made this plan under direct leadership of Jinnah and Sohrawardi, who was at that time the leader of Bengal, a Muslim League supporter as well. Undivided, Bengal, that was a larger Bengal. And then they went after this area called Noakhali, surrounded the Hindus there, and started killing them. And in that process, the whole thing was led by a peer of the local Sufi Dargah, who also wanted to, kill Hindus.
Well, so, Sudha, let me interrupt. I thought that Sufis were all peace-loving, and they want everyone to live peacefully, and they are the mystic. They are the mystics, and they don't believe in all of this. Why is that? Why is that different in Noakhali?
Well, it's not different in Noakhali. In fact, Ajay bhai, we should do a HinduLounge show on Sufism in the Indian subcontinent. And I'll tell you, from almost in every generation, some Sufi quote unquote saint or Sufi peer or however you call it, Sufi silsila tradition, Sufi tradition, has played a very critical role, has played a very, very critical role in the direct targeting of Hindus and India, in Indian interest, in this particular case, Indian interest. Uh, every generation, I can tell you, starting from the attack on Jammu and Kashmir in 1947. Where do you think the attackers came from? Who were the, in Indian history, they call it, tribals who came. In Pakistani, they will
Oh, they
say
were not tribals.
the
They were far from
Kabalia.
tribals.
Yeah,
The regular Pakistani army disguised as
not just that,
tribals.
those who were volunteering as fighters with the Pakistani army from the northwest frontier
Yeah,
provinces
yeah.
were primarily followers of a Sufi dargah there called Manki Sahib. Okay, so Manki Sahib is also basically a Sufi dargah in what is present day Swat and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa area, who was mobilizing his local followers to go and fight this jihad. And they literally, in their pronouncements and teachings, said, you go there and kidnap Hindu and Sikh girls and bring them back here. That's your gift for doing this jihad. There are literally speeches of that from the Manki Sharif Dargah in 1946, 47, but 47 in the Kashmir case.
And the Hindus still keep going to the Ajmer Sharif and all the other places, right?
Well, Ajmer Sharif, and the sad part here is that it's not that they hide it.
Yeah.
They talk about it all the time openly. The Moinuddin Chishti, the founder of the Ajmer Sharif, where every Hindu celebrity loves to put some chaddar and whatnot.
Or something, yeah.
Every urban Delhiite who is this, Ganga Jamuna Tehzeeb person goes and has some food there while with his head covered with whatever. The Ajmer Sharif, their own history, they say that we helped Muhammad Ghori defeat Prithviraj Chauhan. They themselves claim it. They are very proud of it. They see the role of Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti as a key strategic advisor to Muhammad Ghori, who was defeated actually by Prithviraj Chauhan's confederacy in the first battle of Tarain, and actually was very severely wounded. The only reason he survived was because they were Turkic Islamists who were very good on their horses, and they could escape faster than the Indian infantries and their elephants who could chase them. So they literally ran away to save their lives, Muhammad Ghori. But Moinuddin Chishti played a key role in informing Muhammad Ghori during this, before the second battle of Tarain, when the Chauhan and the Rajput confederacy had broken because of the fight between Prithviraj Chauhan and Jaichand. He was the first one to inform him this is the time to attack. So Moinuddin Chishti played the biggest role in the defeat and the conquest of India for Islam, and that's, they credit him for that. I mean, if you go to Ajmer Sharif, they will say that he is the Khwaja-e-Hind. He is the one who conquered Hindustan.
Conquered Hind, yep.
And Hindus have no problem with that. They're perfectly fine with that. so
there's a lot more education to do. Coming back to Noakhali, we should, and Manjuji has just said on the chat that we should do a show on, we should do a show on Sufi and Hindu relation, especially. We will do that, Manjuji. We will put it on our long list of shows that we have promised but not done. But this one we have to do one of these days. Coming back to Noakhali, so how many Hindus were killed 75 years ago when the Noakhali incidents happened?
So there are different estimates on this, but by most estimates, and the British had a different number. The Hindus had, obviously, Hindus were led by the Congress at that time, had a different number. Muslim League had it. In my opinion, the most accepted number would be between 5,000 to 7,000 Hindus were killed. Some numbers, including the Muslim League numbers, are higher, and close to 50,000 Hindus were forcibly converted to Islam. 50,000 of them. And
so it is conceivable that some of these people who perpetrated the current violence are, their ancestors were Hindus, so they were formerly Hindus, and now they have turned against the Hindus, right?
Well, there is a possibility of that, but I must also say that afterwards, there was a Shuddhikaran that was done by Arya Samaj there, more than a few months later, like 4 or 5 months later, when the situation had been brought under control, and many of those 50,000 Hindus actually returned back to Hindu Dharma after the Shuddhikaran that was done there. So that part remains still not that well known or well read. So I don't know how many of those Hindus who were converted to Islam. But this is not important, because every Muslim in Bangladesh today has been converted somewhere between the last 50 years to last 250 years. So everybody who is a Muslim, the 80% of the Muslim there have been converted in the last 350 years in Bangladesh. So it's anyway known that whether it was in their grandfather's generation or in their great grandfather's generation, the conversion happened. It's a matter of just a debate. But anyway, the point here is that the only Hindu Mahasabha leader who lived there was his head was actually chopped off and handed in a platter to the leader of the Dargah, Sufi Dargah, as a gift by the Muslim League. So that's the nature of the violence, the brutality of the violence that took place in Noakhali. And 75 years later, during this Durga Puja, the only Hindu temple there that was of any significance, which is the ISKCON temple, was again attacked, and it brought back memories of how Hindus have suffered in that region for the last 75 years, and I think that is that's even more telling. The choice of the location, the timing, and the places is a very telling. It shows a deeper planning that went into it against the Hindus in this particular last week's riot. So that, I think, is my point and analysis on what actually happened.
So, Utsada, if you can go to what American Hindus have been doing, because I know that you have especially been active, and you have been, you have done a lot of stuff, and I don't want to preempt what you have done. I want to hear it in your own words, what you have been doing as the executive director of Hindu Pact in last a week, and what are you in US? And then after you say that, I have a series of questions for you. So let's start with what actual ground on the ground, what you have been doing report.
So I must say that it's not just we as Hindu Pact are doing things, but we are not the only ones doing it. There are a lot of other organizations who are doing a lot of work, and I'm going to talk about that as well. So the first thing we did from Hindu Pact is to reach out to the Bangladeshi community in Washington, D.C. area and around the country, and connect with them and get the numbers and the figures and what is actually happening on the ground. So we are very privileged and very honored to be working with. We contacted Human Rights Congress for Bangladesh Minorities, which is the biggest Bangladeshi. It's one of the oldest Bangladeshi minority organizations in America. It's a United Nations recognized organization. And we reached out to them and we got the data and the figures. And with those numbers, we went and we, first of all, on social media, we contacted their embassy, we contacted their leadership in Bangladesh, and we started contacting American leadership that is in Bangladesh, which is the American ambassador to Bangladesh. And we started communicating with them what the steps we expect them to take in terms of intervening about the ground realities. Because many times, if it's not something that is important to you geopolitically, countries don't care about what's happening on the ground. So that was the first step, to educate them and advocate for what is happening on the ground in terms of reaching out to the State Department, reaching out to the ambassador, US ambassador to Bangladesh. That was the first step we took. The next step we took was within 2 days, we set up meetings with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Rob Portman's office, and we provided them a full detailed information and briefing on what happened, and asked him to convince his other members in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to do something about this, to make it a point to mention this as much as possible. Additionally, I must say, Hindu American Foundation, which has a campaign account, also started a letter writing campaign to all the lawmakers so that any hearing of the new Bangladesh ambassador that is going to happen in the Senate needs to be, this issue needs to be brought up during that hearing, so that the ambassador can commit to something in terms of providing safety and security to the Hindus. So congratulations to Hindu American Foundation for that. Another thing we did, and this we did with along with the Bangladeshi Hindu community, is that we organized an immediate protest in the Washington D.C. area outside the embassy of Bangladesh. That protest actually made a lot of difference because it was reported in Bangladesh. The government of Bangladesh still values how it is seen around the world, unlike Pakistan, which really, you know, has little interest in terms of addressing global perceptions about that country. Bangladesh is considered a country which wants to maintain its image around the world, and it depends on a lot of trade and economic interaction with Western countries for its own economic growth. So it cares about its perception globally, and to have a protest outside the embassy creates a perception that things are not right in Bangladesh, which the government, it puts pressure on the Bangladesh government to address and counter. So the next step was to have this protest, and thankfully the Bangladeshi Hindu community came together, as you know, they were being targeted every day. So if you visit our Twitter account, Hindu Pact's Twitter account, you will see the videos, and you should also visit Human Rights Congress for Bangladesh Minorities Twitter account. They had a live reporting on that as well. So that was the next step. And the third step that we took was to organize a larger protest and be supportive of larger protests being organized by other organizations like ISKCON, the Bangladeshi Hindu organizations, the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council, Human Rights Congress for Bangladesh Minorities. We made sure that we joined their protest and gave our voice to them. And lastly, more importantly, we have been connecting with as many lawmakers as possible in both in the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and educating them about what is happening in the ground. Again, we insisted that we work with Bangladeshi individuals and Bangladeshi organizations because they have the ground realities. So it's been an honor to work with Human Rights Congress for Bangladesh Minorities in this particular aspect. So these are the 3 or 4 immediate steps that we have taken. Now, there are long-term efforts that we have to make, and we are going to, Ajay bhai, discuss that if you have time. I think I'm already 45 minutes into the show.
So that let me ask you some more difficult questions now.
Okay.
So I want to know this because this is the kind of question that comes up on the ground, right? When we talk to Hindus who are not activists, who are not attached to advocacy, you would admit that almost 90% or 95% of the Hindus in America, may express general sympathy, but they are not advocates and they are not really interested in going on the street and protesting. And there are reasons for that. So let me give you the other side of the advocacy view. A question that generally comes up is, look, US generally acts when, so I hear a little bit of echo on your side, so maybe you want to adjust something. So the question that comes up from ordinary Hindus generally is that, look, US acts when it is in US's self-interest, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nobody is, people in foreign policy, the only thing that is constant generally is self-interest. And if you look at the history of recent engagements that US has had, whether it is the Gulf War, whether it's the invasion of Iraq, whether it is invasion of Afghanistan, or even the Vietnam War, all of these were related to the American interest. Now, there is a small area in Bangladesh. I'm just giving you a view, and I want you to be challenged with this. So don't take it as, well, this is my opinion, but this is just a general view. That, look, there's a small place in Bangladesh where a dozen Hindus got killed. Why does America? Okay, America made an empty statement, a hollow statement. So what? It doesn't really matter. And so all the Hindu advocates who went out and protested on Capitol Hill and in front of Bangladeshi embassy and in other cities, maybe they engineered a statement from US State Department, which would have probably come anyway. If any reporter had asked to the State Department that, what do you think about killing of innocent Hindus? And Bangladeshi and then the presidential spokesman or State Department spokesman would have said, yeah, we condemn it. Okay, so that the question is, was all the advocacy and activism and protest that you did mostly a feel good for American Hindu advocates? Was it a Saturday picnic? What was it? What was the end result and the impact of this? Because that statement would have come one way or the other.
That's the part I disagree with you, Ajay bhai. The part where you say that statement would have come one way or the other is the part I disagree with you.
Okay.
I think that statement would not have come one way or the other. Uh, that statement took effort by people to come, which is some of it was our effort as well, Hindu Pact's effort as well. But nevertheless, it was not just Hindu Pact; it was a bunch of Hindu organizations which did made that effort. Additionally, I also there are nuances to what you said that U.S. acts when there is U.S. interest involved. Otherwise, it doesn't care. That's a very black. It's a very black and white statement. There are nuances of action from US in between somewhere where its interests are less. There are lesser actions. So I do agree that in the larger scheme of things, not just US, every country, whether it is US, whether it is China, whether it is India, Russia, whoever, they only act more when their own national interest is in. That's true about every country. But there are nuances, and those nuances have outcomes, especially in a country like Bangladesh, because Bangladesh it's a small country. It until in the recent past, until a couple of years ago, it was very much dependent on aid, international aid, for support and for its growth. Nowadays, its economy is done very much better in the last 5 to 8 years, so it is less dependent on aid, but it continues to have significant in countries continue to have significant influence on Bangladesh because it is a country that was historically dependent on aid. It is also a country that has a historical antipathy towards Pakistan because it was created out of a struggle against Pakistan, and because of that, it is caught between a geopolitical game that involves Pakistan and China on one side, and India and United States on the other side. That is even more accelerated because of what's happening in the Quad and the Indian Ocean region, in the Indo-Pacific region. So it is very it's too black and white to say that US doesn't have any influence in the region or doesn't have any interest in the region. US does. Its interests are very much aligned with that of India's interest, at least on the surface. And we have to go by what's on the surface. We cannot, chase the rat in the back of our skull. So what I am trying to say here is that it is not just a statement from the State Department, which would have anyway come, as you pointed out. That's not the truth. What happens in America, what is seen on TV channels, what is seen in media reports, what is seen in White House press corps statements, what is seen in the State Department statements, has an impact on the leadership in Bangladesh. Whether they will take that extra effort, make that extra effort to clamp down on the Islamists who are committing this violence, or whether they will just take it easy because nobody is caring about it, nobody in the world is talking about it, that it makes a difference, especially if it's happening from the White House or the State Department or United Nations in front of the New York in New York. In Bangladesh, having done this activism for the last 20 years, I can guarantee you that it has made real difference. And you have to ask people on the ground. People on the ground, how do you measure it? I measure it when I talk to somebody in Dhaka, or talk to somebody in Cox's Bazar, or talk to somebody in Kumilla, and they say, because of what you did in front of the White House, the police came and asked us, are you okay? Do you need anything else? Because now they are getting orders from their bosses or their bosses that they cannot let this violence go on. And that means a lot to us. That is, could we have prevented the 10-year-old little girl getting raped? Maybe not. Will these protests lead to lesser number of lives being lost? Possibly. And I think it's worth spending some time and effort doing advocacy for that little possibility that would have saved 5 more lives on the ground. And I believe that's why we are doing it.
So let me ask you this. As the executive director of Hindu Pact, what is your end goal?
Okay.
With this, all the Bangladesh related activities that you have done, you met with legislators, you had protests that you organized or you participated in. There's a letter writing campaign to the legislators that is going on that we have supported in last 1 week, and all of this, right? what is the end? What is the end goal here?
Correct. So I would say that there are two or three clear goals that are measurable that we want to see happen, and it needs to be it is a tangible effort as far as I see it as the executive director of HinduPat. And I still continue to take offense to the fact that you call it a feel good Saturday picnic. Those who went
No,
out
no.
and
I look. I mean, it's not a question of what I mean.
I
What I'm
understand. I
saying.
understand.
So,
I'm just making my
one
point.
thing that I want to do is I want to present you with the with what is the word on the street, because a lot of times people at the top, like you are isolated from ground realities. So I
Oh,
thought I'll
trust me,
bring you
I'm
the
not
other
isolated.
side. No, okay,
Ajay bhai, trust me,
you're
I'm more in touch with people on the ground than you know. In fact, one of the
you're a
complaints
leader.
against me is that I'm not trying to be on the top as executive director of HinduPat, but I'm actually too much in touch with ground realities because
So
I spend hours
we all
every
look at
day actually attending the
we all look at
protest
you. We
rather
all
than
look at
sitting in
you.
front of the camera and talking about it like
Yeah, yeah.
executive director sometimes
It's
does.
just so that we look at you as a leader, and sometimes leadership
Leaders
is a
have to be
lonely
on the
place.
ground. Ajay bhai, leaders cannot sit in their rooms and just do Zoom calls with 50 other organizations
No,
doing
but
also doing Zoom calls, but you have to actually go on the ground and
I'm
be
just
part of these protests. But
so
anyway, we are digressing here. So
we
let
are
me go back.
digressing, but I have to bring the
If
ninety
you insist
percent
on
view to
digressing, then
you.
we'll continue to digress.
I know we will, but I have to bring the 90% of people's view to you, so that as a leader you make a more informed. I mean,
Well, trust me, the 90% of
you
the
hear
people.
from people, like who you hear from other people, and because leadership is a lonely place. I mean, you don't get to hear from ordinary people like us. So
If
today
you're a
you got to
leader
hear that.
who actually goes and talks to people in the protest, spends time with them, it's not a lonely place.
Yes, on the in the protest, I'm bringing you the view of people who are not in the protest.
Well, then they should come and join the protest. Okay, Ajay, including yourself. You are not very far away from Washington D.C. or New York. You are
Uh,
actually just a couple of hours drive. So next time I
no,
hope
no,
you will
actually,
join
it's a
us.
lot longer, but that's okay. I'll be there. I'll be there.
Okay, wonderful.
So that continuing on it, right? So uh, you were saying, so the end goal is what?
So coming back to the point we were discussing, the end goal here is to actually ensure, and this is where follow up is important. That we have to the part where I agree with you, Ajay bhai, is that just doing a protest for one weekend is not the end of it. What happens after that, the protest shows your dedication, your understanding that something is happening, and then your ability to inform other people, including lawmakers and policymakers, on a certain event. That's the protest part. What happens after that is that we have to follow up, and the things that we as HinduPat would like to follow up on and ensure that it is pushed to the most logical end game is to make sure that there is a tribunal that is created in Bangladesh by the government of Bangladesh along the lines of the tribunal they created for the war criminals of 1971, and ensure that everybody who was involved in committing these murders, in destroying these temples, is speedily tried. And because there is death penalty in Bangladesh, everybody who was involved in the murder of the individual, that little girl you saw, and everybody else who were burnt alive, butchered out, cut out, who died, they all face death sentence. That is something we have to pursue as not just as HinduPat. I mean, as HinduPat, this is something that I have outlined as an outcome, and we all have to come together and use our resources to pursue that, continue to pursue that, because that is the most important part of this activism and advocacy. Make sure that a tribunal is created to give punishment and prison terms and death sentences within a given time period. So it has to be 1 year, 2 year. That those details can be worked out, but has to be a time bound effort. The second most important thing is, and this is where Ajay bhai, just doing protest is not important. And I'm going to go out and say this. Some people may not like. There are too many people out there signing petitions. They have their value, but that value, at some point starts bringing diminishing returns. If there are Hindu temples in America, hundreds of Hindu temples in America, let's not just sign another petition to the government of Bangladesh. Okay, let's actually, I will ensure that we communicate with the government of Bangladesh and the embassy of Bangladesh. Let's actually tell them that there are 250 temples in America, they will oversee the rebuilding of the hundreds of temples that have been destroyed there. The government of Bangladesh will give compensation for these destructions so that they can be rebuilt. we can ensure that the poor Hindus of Bangladesh are dying. They are being, for them to have the resources and the infrastructure to rebuild everything. They would love if an American Hindu temple just puts up a camera there and tells, gives them support in terms of the design, in terms of the architecture, in terms of moral support about how the temple can be rebuilt. And American Hindu temples in America complain all the time that their next generation is
Yeah,
not.
Utsada,
Allow me to finish, Ajay bhai. Allow me to finish, Ajay bhai, because you ask me questions. And you have
No,
to
I
allow me to.
understand. I understand.
You have to allow me to finish. No.
Yeah, please go
You
ahead. Go ahead. Go
you
ahead.
think you can be all sharp and edgy
No.
by
Go ahead.
asking me tough questions? So you have to be willing to listen to sharp and edgy answers here.
This is good.
Okay.
This is good. Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
So, yeah. So just allow me to finish here. So just don't just sign your petitions. Just do something real beyond the petition, because petition is good, but make something real happen. And I know there are lots of Hindu organizations who have similar skills. How about visiting Bangladesh for a change? Go to Bangladesh, go to these temples, visit them, meet the people who are victims. For somebody who carries an American passport to see them on the ground as Hindu activists. Yeah, I know it's slightly more dangerous than actually just sitting on Facebook and WhatsApp and sending messages blaming Modi all the time. But why don't you do that? That would be a good starting point if you want to do something real. So these are my suggestions, and I know today's show might not be liked by many people, but some things have to be said. So Ajay bhai, my point here is that let's follow up and ensure that these two little things are achieved, and then we can go to the next step. And also, let's be realistic. We cannot bring 10 million people from one country to another part of the world. It is not that easy to do. Okay, if it was that easy to do, then the horrors of the partition would not have unfolded the way they unfolded. So let's all be realistic. Let's not have one country invade another country, and we achieve it by just sitting on WhatsApp all day. Let's not do all those things. Let's get some real things done. Continue to advocate with your lawmakers, with the State Department, with your elected officials. Ensure that the plight of Hindus are reflected all around the world in the media, because these things do matter. And Bangladesh doesn't want to be seen as a country which is radicalized and which is like Pakistan and Afghanistan. Let me say that very clearly.
How can they help Hindu Pact?
How can who help Hindu Pact?
People who want to be involved in America. How can they help Hindu Pact?
Well, Hindu Pact is open. It's an open structure. If you want to create a chapter in your city, create a chapter. Talk to your lawmaker. We will provide you the content that you can share with your lawmaker on Bangladesh, on any other global zone where Hindus are being targeted. If you have some other issue that you want to talk about, bring it to us. We will evaluate it, and we will provide you the platform that needs to be, that's need to be given to achieve these advocacy goals. And then talk to your lawmakers, be the voice of the Hindus, in this case, be the voice of the Bangladeshi Hindus, and then just go and do it. I am personally based in Washington, D.C. We have a team that is being built here in Washington, D.C. I have Adel Nazaria, a very experienced advocacy and media person who is working with us. We will take your voice to the Capitol Hill. We'll take your voice to the State Department. But there are two ways you can do it. You either join us and be the hands and the legs and the minds and the hearts, or you can just open up your wallet and help us do it better. So that are my two.
And Utsada, in fairness, we do want to build a professional Hindu advocacy movement. So we want to have people, we want to have community organizers who are working at various city and state level and the national level, who are full-time working for Hindu Pact. And we also want to have a legislative action as a goal, and we want to have professional we want to have professionals who have experience in dealing with the lawmakers. So we can certainly use everyone's help in achieving our goals of building a grassroots and yet a professional advocacy movement that is active in Washington, D.C. So Utsada, great job. Whatever I planned in terms of getting your heart and soul involved in this topic actually worked. So I'm quite happy about that.
I think you are, in this particular case, you are giving too much credit to yourself, but that's okay.
I got to, Utsada. I got to, Look, I mean, there is a India-Pakistan cricket match going on, and everyone is kind of distracted. But if we were to have if we were to have a really passionate discussion, this actually becomes a lot more interesting than an India-Pakistan cricket match, and it was. So
I
thank
know,
you,
I know.
Utsada. Thank you for
India
that.
Pakistan cricket match is one T20 World Cup match is happening right now, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that if there was a protest on Bangladesh in front of the White House today, there would have been hardly two people there because everybody would, every Hindu is watching the India Pakistan cricket
Well,
match.
every
That's
Pakistani is watching too. So
it,
with
it,
that, thank you very much. A great topic, great discussion. I really, really want to thank you for bringing out the best in terms of the discussion, the argument, and the advocacy that you have. So thank you again. And now on to our regularly scheduled program with the segments rather. And the first one, Utsada, is the Hindu Seva Charity Act of the Week. And here we go.
मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं लोकहितम्.
And Utsada, the Hindu Seva Charity Act, with all the advocacy activities that we are doing and the kind of help that you just requested. Once again, I have to say that this week again, it's Hindu Pact is the Seva Charity Act of the week. And for a good reason, right? We have these incidents happening in Kashmir, we have the incidents happening in Bangladesh, we have American Hindu advocacy where we are, sponsoring a lot of high school and college students to be our interns, and we are building a professional advocacy organization that is based in Washington D.C. With all of that, so that I urge everyone who is watching to go to hindupact.org and click on the donate button, or go to hindupact.org/donate, click on the and click on donate button over there and do the best you can, because this is a community effort. This is an effort that is generational effort. We hope that this is an advocacy movement that will last for generations to come and make the Hindu voice in America heard. So with all that, Utsada, today once again I urge everyone to support Hindu Pact as our Seva Charity Act of the Week. Utsada, let's go on to the next segment. And I am having a little bit of a problem, so I can't play your favorite drum sound. But I know how disappointed you're going to be because the drum sound is not being played. I'm going to try it one more time and see if you can actually hear it. But if you cannot, please forgive me. It is a
No,
one-off.
Ajay bhai, I
And
don't mind the drum sound at
I'll
all.
play the drum sound twice next time just to make up for it.
No, 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 no. We don't mind it at all. It's
Here you go. Did you hear it, Utsada?
I did hear it.
You did?
No, I did not.
I am so sorry, Utsada. I apologize truly.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
No, please, let me try one last time, and if you can hear it, good. If you cannot hear it again, please accept my apologies on in not being able to hear this. I know I don't want to disappoint you. Any luck? I'm sorry, Utsada, that you cannot hear the drum roll for this time. It
I'm
really
saying
does
don't be
deserve
sorry.
a
We are
drum roll.
perfectly fine with it.
No, you can. I know deep inside you're not, but it is one of those things. I do have a backup music though, so that let me see if I can play that for you. So let's see if this is the one that you like. Let's see which is the one that you like. How about hip hop? And Utsada, with that, I go to the Hindu good news of the week. And Hindu good news of the week is, let's see if you can see my screen. Utsada, I'm not looking at my screen, but can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see the screen.
So the Hindu good news of the week is, and Thara Narsimanji, who is our regular listener, and she has her own radio show in Houston. She is also the president of Hindus of Houston, and she pointed this out as well. And Tharaji, I'm so glad that we are thinking like you. The so that the daughter of the first Indonesian president uh, converted back to Hindu Dharma, and this brings us to the prophecy that a Javanese priest in 1478 had had declared, and yet he has prophesied that the country of Indonesia, the king had actually accepted Hindu Dharma, accepted Islam, and this priest had said that 500 years later, Indonesia may someday become Hindu again. Ustada, tell us more about this.
Well,
Ustada, you're on mute. Yeah, we
yes.
can hear you.
So this is a legend in Indonesia, and it's a sad legend because it's an example of how Islam colonized Indonesia and converted its population mostly to Islam, but most of that conversion actually still happened in the last 150 years. 400 years ago, it was a nominal conversion because Indonesia was so far away from Middle East and Makkah that they were not able to fully convert them to Islam, even though officially they did. So in 1478, the prime minister of the then Mahajapahit ruler, Sabda Palon, had cursed him that within 500 years, Hindu Dharma is going to return back to the Indonesian islands. And this is, mind you, this is not a Hindu Dharma that is deeply connected to India, as in we know India today. It's a very native Hindu tradition, lot of native practices that evolved on their own. So Indonesia being a very ancient Hindu kingdom that did have connections through the Cholas with India, but was the two Hindu dharmas, the traditions didn't just like transplant from one place to another. They evolved in their own places. So it is wonderful to see this, that the Sukarno Putri is back to Hindu Dharma after many generations, and this is a movement that is growing in Java. In the past, because of ethnic tensions between the Balinese and the Javanese, it was almost assumed that Balinese will be the ones upholding the Hindu traditions, and the Javanese were perfectly fine with being in Islam, even though they knew that they were being colonized. They were colonized. But the fact that such a powerful, iconic figure, the daughter of the first Indonesian president, Sukarno Putri, is now back to Hindu Dharma, sends a message that the curse of Sabda Palon is coming back. And the people in Indonesia believe it. See, it's the people's will and the people's power that really makes or breaks such social movements. So I believe that if Sabda Palon's curse has its merit, I believe that Indonesia would be a far better place if it reclaims back its Hindu glory. And I believe that Sukarno Putri, or Sukmawati Sukarno Putri is her full name. So Sukarno Putri will be able to spark that revival of pride in the ancient Hindu traditions of Indonesia. And one day Java will be back as a Hindu land, and will be able to fight the growth of radical Islam and Islam itself in that region.
And so her grandmother was from Bali. Her grandmother was a Hindu from Bali. And you can see the announcement here for Sudhi Badani is what they call, which we call Gharwapsi in or
So Sudhi Badani means the pronouncement. So pronouncement is Vad means to speak. So right. So the pronouncement of Shuddhikaran basically.
Yeah, exactly. So we call it Suddhikaran, we call it Gharwapsi. And this is Gharwapsi after 500 years, or in our grandmother's case, maybe 100 years, or 125 years.
No, in many of these people who actually were converted to Islam only in the last 200 years. They continue to keep some of their Sanskrit names also. Sukarna, yeah. Even though he was nominally a Muslim, he was converted as a Muslim. Sukarna means Karna, the name Karna from Mahabharata. So somebody who did, good work. So
You know what I found it interesting, Utsoda, is that she talked to a lot of people in her family. She also talked to other people in her community, and they all accepted her becoming Hindu. Now, we should also say that a few years ago, 2018, she came out with a poem where she wrote about the you know uh, the uh, beauty of Indonesian women, and she was made to apologize by the radicals uh, by saying that the women in Indonesia should be fully veiled. And so she had actually gone through that. She actually, in tears, she said sorry at that time. So this is probably a long time in coming. But what I found really good, Utsada, is that a lot of her family members and community actually accepted her adoption of Hindu Dharma, her reverting back to Hindu Dharma and her Garvapsi. That to me, Utsada, was very, uh, you know, uh, was very encouraging.
Well,
Utsada,
Sabdapalon has his ways, I believe.
I think so. And it started out with a big eruption of a volcano. That the prophecies beginning of the 500th year a few years ago started with a huge eruption, and that started some sort of a movement of people coming back to Hindu fold. So we'll see. I mean, Indonesia is by far the largest country with Muslim population. So a country with the largest Muslim population. So we have to see how it evolves, and I'm sure there's going to be a reaction from a lot of the more conservative, radical people in Indonesia against her. But let's see how it evolves. So that I would like to move on to the next topic on our list, and so that this is I wouldn't. This is the I have really hard time with Sudha. I'll be honest with you. I have really hard time picking the Hindu phobe or Hindu hater of the week. The reason is there are so many competing news items, and sometimes it's just not easy to pick one. So, with your permission today, I want to pick two. And again, my profound apologies, that I'm not able to play the tune that goes with the Hindu phobe of the week. I
Anyway, it's
really
fine.
feel
It's fine. I'm perfectly fine with you not
I
playing.
know you're fine with it, but I know that after the show is over, you'll probably have a sleepless night. That we miss the nice music that I usually play with the drum
No, no,
rolls
Ajay, I won't. I
and a
won't.
sad
Trust me, I
tear,
won't.
tom lord, and I'm sorry, so that I wish it was different. So that let me bring to your attention this news item. There is a fashion house in India, started actually by an American who in 1950s who was in India for one of those programs where you know where Americans generally go and do some of the service activities outside the country. And after his tenure there was over, he saw that there were a lot of handicrafts and rural fashions and all that. So he started a small company to kind of popularize the Indian traditional Indian clothing initially and handicrafts around the world. And that company was called Fab India. Now this Fab India uh, is a $2 billion company today, because they're just trying to go public, and their valuation, they want to sell 50% of the shares. Now this company has, they gave a lot of stocks to their employees and all that, among the first companies in India to do that. All good, right? Now they're trying to go public with 50% of their shares, and the market valuation for that company is close to $2 billion. It's the largest retailer in India. They put out a Diwali. They obviously they hired a few one of the ad agencies they hired, and through that ad agency, the ultimate responsibility is Fab India. They put out an advertisement for Diwali, and this is how the Diwali advertisement reads: "As we welcome the festival of love and light, not Diwali, not the auspicious festival for Hindus. They want to sell it to Hindus, but it's not called Diwali. Okay, festival of love and light. Remember, this is the festival of deep religious significance. This is the festival on the day in which Sri Ram returned from Sri Lanka to Ayodhya after conquering the greatest evil that existed at that time. This is the festival, this is the day, Diwali is the day on which Bhagwan Mahavir attained the ultimate knowledge, right? There is a significance in every Hindu uh, parampara, whether it is Jain, whether it is Vaishnava parampara, whether it's a Buddhist parampara, whether it's Shaivite parampara, every sampradaya, every way of worship has some significance. Sikhs, everyone has some significance for Diwali, and they reduce it down to festival of love and light. What the hell is that? What the hell is love and light? And then they say, comma, Jashan e Riwaz. Jashan e Riwaz is celebration of tradition. Cleverly inserted Urdu phrase for the line of collection that they have, the fashion collection they have. Jashan e Riwaz by Fab India is the collection that beautifully pays homage to Indian culture. Okay, so not Diwali, not a spiritual festival, and then to link it to a festival by setting a subtle signal by unveiling a new fashion line called Jashan e Rivaj. Okay, and a collection that beautifully pays homage to not Hindu culture, Indian culture. Not the celebration of victory of good over evil, not a victory of attainment of a spiritual nirvana, right? But homage to Indian culture. What culture? What the hell is culture? This
No,
is
it's not. They're just introducing the word India because they want to sell in India. It's a homage to,
yeah,
the Islamic culture in India.
Indian culture. And then they put up this, picture of all the models, and they are all dressed in Indian clothes, but they remove any visible sign of them being Hindu. Because what is missing here, Utsoda? Last week we talked about the World Bindi Day, but if they put the bindi or a chandlo or any of the red, for people who are not familiar with bindi, a red dot on the forehead, they would instantly be identified. These women would be instantly identified as Hindu. But Fab India is trying to be as far away from word Hindu as possible, and as far away from depiction of Hindu as possible. And so they removed the bindi. And this caught attention on Twitter. And then Tejasvi Surya, who is a member of parliament, and some of the other people who are active with large following of among Hindus, they took the issue up. And that forced Fab India to withdraw this ad and then to come up with a new ad which specifically mentions Diwali and removes the Jashan e Ribaz, whatever that is. Okay, your thoughts, Utsoda?
Well, I think this was this was a marketing gimmick. This comes from a very urbanized. Whoever is the marketing in charge and the leadership in Fab India, who they're urbanized Khan market folks from places like Mumbai and Delhi and Mumbai.
By the way, their head office is in Khan Market. Or one of the first store was in Khan Market, rather.
That's
so,
my point.
There you go. Yeah.
So they are that section, a very, very, very small segment of the Indian community, which is heavily Islamized. They take pride in Mughal history and extremely elite in their approach. Somewhat uneducated and self-delusional, but that's never been a weakness in general in the past in India. So they are just doing what they felt was a smart technique to mix the Miladul Nabi, which is the Prophet Muhammad's birthday, with Diwali, And because their own audiences and their own inner circles are this Islamized, Ganga Jamna kind of Indians, so they thought it will work. What they don't realize is that the average people on the ground is fed up of this kind of BS. So it backfired. It was a marketing gimmick. It worked, didn't work. It backfired. They'll go back to the drawing board, lose some money. Maybe not
This
give a
is not
promotion.
the first
They'll
one, right?
hire a consultant who is more Hindutva, and then maybe next time they'll do a more Hindutva.
So that I'm not sure, because I saw, last year, if you remember, Tanishq, which is a Tata brand and owns a jewelry store chain across India, had a similar advertisement during the last festival season. Another Indian brand called Manyavar also had a similar advertisement campaign. And I saw a BBC show on with the ad agencies who put out these ads, and they were completely unrepentant, and not just unrepentant, but they wanted to come back and do more of these. So that I would tell you that if you think that they are going to learn a lesson, I don't know if I don't quite agree with that. I think there are going to be more and more of these things. Their goal is to make it so mainstream that they wear out the Hindutva activist on this and get accepted. So they want to muscle their way in, and they have the media on their side, so they're able to do this. So that I wish I can express the same amount of optimism as you that this will go away. I think if that was the case after Tanishq and Manyavar, this would have never happened, but it did. And there is a lesson in there that we need to be we need to be more vigilant on these things. So that in interest of time, let me move on to the next Hindu phobe or the Hindu hater of the week. And Utsada, once again, I'm sorry I don't have the music, and I am so disappointed because this one deserves one. If this doesn't deserve the music, I don't know what does, Utsada, and I want you to kind of speak about it. But let me see if
I
I
have
can.
to say that, in my opinion, this is actually the Hindu phobe of the week, and we should have stuck
Yeah.
to this one. I
All
know
right, Utsada,
you
in
added
that
that
case,
one in because it was important to
all
you,
right,
and
I
you
take your
did
word
it.
for it. Let's play this then. If you really think that, then we should do this. Tell me if you can hear this. I can't deprive you of all the music, right? So let me once again tell me when you can hear this music. So that I mean, this is my backup music for just to keep you entertained. Let's see, future prop. Here we go. Do you hear it? I don't know. So that today is not a music day. So I let's see if this plays. All right. So they're not a music day today. Go ahead. Tell us about this. Tell us about this woman.
Make a few more attempts, Ajay bhai? Do you
No,
want to make
I'm going to give up. I am going to give up.
Okay, fine.
All right.
So,
Tell us about this.
this,
Tell
in
us
my
about this.
opinion, is the Hindu hater of the week.
Yeah.
The music is playing now. The music is playing, Ajay bhai.
I know.
Okay, well, when you finish playing, I'll speak.
All right. So I played this chili pop music for you because I figured some music is better than no music. So tell us about this. This is a strange one. So that a college, all I can tell you is Dartmouth College. And this is not Dartmouth University. Initially, I thought it was Dartmouth University. It is Dartmouth University. It's also called Dartmouth College. And Dartmouth College is an Ivy League. This is an Ivy League school, right? It's Dartmouth. Dartmouth College is an Ivy League school. It is one of the top. It has one of the top computer science departments in the world. And now, so take us, talk about this one. This is the strangest thing I've heard. So that this has to be a strange story of the week, more than even Hindu phobe story of the week. But go ahead.
So the Dartmouth College, there's a student there in the name Maha Hassan Aishavi, and Aishavi is I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's most likely an Arabic name. She's a student, a PhD student there, and obviously she's not there in the university anymore, so she's not working there. She allegedly, and in this case, seems like the Dartmouth College came out with a inquiry and found out that she was wrong, made allegations against three professors, all three of whom she accused of being intrinsically discriminatory against her because she's a Muslim, even though she could not provide any evidence, she could not provide any factual incident that pointed to that. Her assumption and allegations were purely based on an assumption. One of the assumptions was that one of those three Hindu professors was connected to Hindutva activism, Hindutva movement, was a quote unquote RSS activist. So I think she's one of those Muslims who gets carried away probably by, I mean, I believe there are two things, and Ajay, you also pointed this out quite well last night. Two things happened. She probably was not able to keep up to the quality of education that was expected of her as a PhD student. She was under tremendous pressure. And then she got carried away by the propaganda that many Islamists and Hindu haters in American universities get into and target Hindus, both students and professors. And she used the two together to kind of create this allegation, and it turns out to be a false one, against these three professors, hoping that because they get away with this in the past, this trope of everybody is out to get Muslims kind of thing has been normalized by the woke left, extreme left narrative builders in universities of America so much that she thought she could get away with that kind of a trope. And she attempted that on these three Hindu professors. It didn't work, backfired. I don't know there was any follow-up. I don't think she is in the university anymore. So that's the end of it. But what it points out to, most importantly, and that's why she's the Hindu hater of the week, is that she could actually believe that she was going to get away with these allegations against the three Hindu professors is because there is such a toxic environment of Hindu hatred in American campuses at this point. And that dismantle global Hindutva conference is another example of that. And across American universities, there has been so much hatred against Hindus, and actually I have to say against Jews as well, that has been created by these special interest, extreme left Islamist groups, that individual students may get carried away and think that they might escape some other real weaknesses that they have using these kinds of tropes. And this is an example of that. This points out, and this should be served as a warning to many other haters of Hindus, that sometimes you get away with these things because you're part of a bigger hate crowd, but at some point it might come back to bite you. And in this particular case of Maha Hassan, it came back to bite her.
And so there's a little bit more than that. I think this is another attempt, in my view, to put Hindus on defensive at many levels. So now a Hindu professor at a university will be cautious in associating himself or herself with any Hindu organization, because they will think that, look, I'm tenured, especially the professors who don't yet have tenure, because they will think that, look, I don't have a tenure, I better stay clear, because who knows which student is going to accuse me of what based on my religious beliefs, my Hindu religious beliefs. This is a very dangerous trend. So that I don't see I see this as a starting of a new new attack, a new round of attack on Hindus. This is no different than Brandeis being a trailblazer, another northeastern university being a trailblazer in some ways, in starting the caste-based attack on Hindus. Now this is just because you're a Hindu and I'm a Muslim, you're against me. So that where does this lead a Hindu who wants to express Hindu identity on campus, which is supposedly a free place, right?
No, this is another example of Islamic supremacy. So basically, by promoting this trope that just because somebody is a Hindu, they have to be against Muslims, it creates creates a dilemma in the minds of Hindus, and it's a psychological tool here, that unless you submit to Islamism, you are against us, and we will target you just because you did not submit to us. So it has worked for many of these individuals and groups in many other situations. They've done this to the general liberal American liberal, crowd out there, and the liberal crowds have submitted. I mean, they would, irony of ironies, LGBT activists would go and celebrate World Burqa Day. So they have been able to subjugate and literally mentally colonize many of the liberals, and they're trying to do the same thing to the Hindus. But they have to understand that Hindus in general have a larger historical memory of the atrocities they have faced at the hands of Islamic colonialists. So I think it will be harder in the case of Hindus. And also, what is important here is that they will keep trying. So in the case of Maha, it is a failed attempt. But let me tell you, this is not the end of
It's
it.
not the end of it.
They will keep
This is
trying
going
it
to-
everywhere, but we have to keep documenting and highlighting these cases so that every time they try this, they are responded to and they are exposed, and that is very important.
Absolutely. Hey, Ustada, I have some good news for you. And the good news is that I got the audio to finally work. So here we go to close out the Hindu Phobe of the Week. You had a really nice smile on your face when the audio started working. So with that,
I was smiling to see when this is going to stop, but you kept on playing it.
so that it's usually 3 times you can count. Hey, Utsada, thank you very much. It was a great show. I think we brought out a real passion in you by challenging the advocate in you. And I'm so glad that we are doing this every week. So thank you very
There is
much.
never a time when you are not in control of the situation. Let me say that, and you are always in control of the situation, and everything you have done is planned and thought out. And so let's play decibels. And I really,
We will. So that I want to thank you. I think you had an amazing week. I know how much hard work you put in, and it is you work day and night for these causes, and I cannot thank you enough, because I know you were out from early in the morning, and you were preparing for Hindu Lounge late at night, and it's not just one day. You've done this for years and years, and not Hindu Pact is just about 20 months old, but you've been doing it for a long time. And I cannot express enough gratitude from the Hindu community to you for all the things that you have been doing, all the things you are doing, and especially all the things that you did last week to support the Bangladeshi Hindus. I will say this, that every little bit counts. Every time someone raises a voice, every time someone sends a tweet, every time even a little thought that goes into the suffering of other fellow Hindus or fellow human beings matters. And Utsoda, you are not just doing it as an individual, you're also inspiring a, a, a large number of American Hindus and even non-American Hindus into advocacy and activism. What you do matters. And I just want to express, once again, I want to express my thanks, express my gratitude for all the things that you're doing for the American Hindu community. It is because of your advocacy.
I have to say that
I want to finish this with so that it is because of you and people like you, but primarily because of you, that today Hindus in America cannot be taken for granted. So that thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of the American Hindu community.
So thank you, Ajay bhai. And I must say that it's not because of me or even in what my role is here is to give the best possible outcomes, analyze it, come up with the best possible thoughts and efforts and initiatives, and do the best possible content creation with a team here. And I must say that the Hindu Pact team that we have here, including you, Ajay bhai, is an inspiration. Every day we come together, we come up with so many new things. And that's the thing that with Hindu Pact, that everybody here is so motivated that it's very easy to work with everybody. There is a competition of motivation and in Hindu Pact, and that's very new and fresh to see in the Hindu community. And let's keep it this way. Let's move forward with it. And I think we are going to make a difference. We are already making a difference. And thank you so much, everybody. And I see a lot of people here who are liking us. Keep liking us, keep supporting us. We need your support. Join us if you can. There is never a short, we are always short on manpower and resources and support. So thank you so much.
Hey, so that because you're doing such a great job, and because you did, we are complimenting you today. You really deserve this.
No, Ajay bhai, no more music. Okay, let's keep that sound bite for hoping to see that India actually gets a wicket against Pakistan in the
I'm
T20
not
World.
worried about that. I leave that to the Indian team, but you deserve a special, a special round of cheers. Hey, Utsada, thank you again for joining. Thank you everyone who has signed in today. I know that we have three other programs that are going on, and I cannot thank you enough for joining us and being engaged. So especially want to call out Vannaji, Manjuji, they've all joined here, and Janardhanji, sorry, Jaishri Ben Bhatt, and some of the Rishabh Mandalji, and all of the people who joined us today. Thank you very, very much. This is Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is a show on contemporary American Hindu issues. It is brought to you by Hindu Pact. Hindu Pact is the policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America, or VHPA. As always, it is led by Utsav Chakrabarti. He is the executive director of Hindu Pact, and I am Ajay Shah. I'm the president of VHPA. We come live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific, and we talk about contemporary American Hindu issues. I want to remind people that this is the Hindu Heritage Month. A lot of programs are going on. Please participate in that. Go to hindumonth.org and see the list of over 100 programs that are happening on this occasion of Hindu Heritage Month. Just 20 minutes from now, Ramayan quiz program for kids is starting, and we will end on October 31st. October 31st from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. is the concluding ceremony of Hindu Heritage Month. And more information on hindumonth.org. October 31st from 4 to 6 p.m., concluding ceremonies of the Hindu Heritage Month. In between, a lot of webinar series is priest chanting and other activities. There is a youth webinar that is coming up, and a youth and Hindu history webinar that is coming up. All this information is on hindumonth.org. With that, I want to thank Utsoda. I want to thank Decibel once again for creating special music just for this episode of Hindu Pact. I don't know how they do it, Utsoda, but Decibel always brings out the best music just for this show. So as we fade from this show, we will now go back to what Decibel's music, special music that was created for episode number 76 of Hindu Lounge. Here we go.